Good. From central government, now we come to the county government. Let's hear what they have to say. Bwana Oluoch, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I would first like to thank the earlier speakers. I think they've really hammered the issues. And just as Prof has stated earlier on, they have kind of also made my work easier, just to align my issues to the role of the counties and to see where there are gaps or gray areas that probably we need to tighten or loose ends. So we all know that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 sets the stage for the current urban governance. If you look at Article 174, 176, and 184, it enshrines the principle of devolution to the county level, and it therefore allows for decentralization to the lowest possible level for effective service delivery. And we know that other than the Constitution, there have been several corresponding acts of parliament, such as the Transition to Devolved Governance, the Act of 2012, the County Government Act 2012, and even the Urban Areas and Cities Act of 2011, which all set criteria for transfer of functions to the county and urban levels, that is at the decentralized levels. And ladies and gentlemen, as you might know, the Urban Areas and Cities Act actually gives the counties a direct role in the management of urban areas. And this includes conferment of municipal and town status on urban areas within the counties, as well as establishment of the urban areas, cities, towns, boards, as well as citizens fora. So the Urban Areas and Cities Act is I'll echo the words of the previous speaker. The Act already acknowledges neighborhood associations and other civil society formations. And therefore, it already recognizes the need for all-inclusive decision-making in the urban space. And so it's the Urban Areas and Cities Act also envisages or provides for the need for oversight for service delivery by boards, including establishment of joint ventures and public-private partnerships, which is very critical and one area that currently the counties are pursuing, how to engage with private sector in service provision. Also, the issues of approval for the urban integrated development plans, as well as allocation of funds to their urban areas. But as was also insinuated by the earlier speaker, we know that there is already the Urban and Area Cities Act, Amendment Act of 2017. Because if you look at the act and from the county perspective, we noted that it had certain gaps, which the counties are pursuing for the need for the revision of the act. And this explains why, arising from the first generation of county governments, we were unable to have counties establish the cities and towns boards. This was because counties had issues with certain provisions of the act, which they felt were not very clear, especially regarding classifications of towns, municipalities, as well as on the issues of the roles and functions of the boards, which certain counties felt that were not very clear and were potential areas of collision course. So we are happy that the amendment is underway, and I will also just urge Kara to ensure that once there is a window for giving input into the Act or comments, then you should do that so that your issues are well captured in the Act. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to acknowledge that the world's urban population is expected to nearly double by 2050. And so cities and urban areas are expected to host nearly 70% of the world population by the sunset of 2030. That is, by 2030, it's expected that cities and urban areas will host nearly 70% of the total world population. And I think the situation is the same in Kenya. If you can reflect on what has happened since the devolution, we note that there are already a lot of springing up towns, both as county headquarters, various counties headquarters, and so there's already rising populations, people, moving into those areas to seek services and also to seek employment. But one gap that is happening that in most instances we find that this is not, the planning aspect has not been taken much into consideration, rather mainly through the absence of enforcement of existing planning guidelines or regulations. And so this portends danger if we don't reverse the current situation, because we are having towns that are springing up without commensurate planned facilities, amenities, and so this, if not checked, then we are looking at a situation where we are going to have a problem in the near future. But of course, from the council perspective, Council of Governors, we are working on various initiatives to try to correct this. One is, of course, the issue of spatial planning, which is one of the key areas that we're working on. And I would like to acknowledge the great work that the panelists, Professor Menya and Charles Osengo, they have been very resourceful to the council as members of the urban committee. And together with the ministry and the National Lands Commission, we've been able to develop the spatial planning guidelines for the counties. And as we speak now, we already have 2 counties that have finalized their spatial plans. We have Lamu and Makueni. And as you know, it's a provision, it's a requirement by law that all counties must develop a 10-year spatial plan. And so we look at this as an opportunity to control, putting development into open spaces within the counties. And we look at it as an opportunity that will enable counties to have controlled development while ensuring that we plan efficiently and the existing spaces within the counties. As we know, the world adopted the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, and it's very important that we continue to unbundle these goals so that we are able to understand what are these that the government committed to. Because Kenya is a signatory of the SDGs. And goal number 11 of the Sustainable Development Goals is very passionate to the topic that we are tackling today. That is to ensure cities and human settlements are inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And if you look at that goal, goal 11A, further seeks to support positive economic, social, environmental links between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas by strengthening national and regional development planning. So you see the goal, the Sustainable Development Goal number 11 already stresses the need for regional and national planning. Looking at the goal further, 11B, goal 11B targets that by 2030, by 2020, there is substantial increase in the number of cities and human settlements adopting and implementing integrated policies and plans towards inclusion, resource efficiency, mitigation, adaptation to climate change, resilience, and disasters, and develop and implement in line with the Sendai framework of DRR, that is the 2015-2030 Sendai framework, our holistic disaster management at all levels. So, very mouthful, but if you look at it critically, we find that there is need to develop local actions. And this section of the goal is further backed up by, if you look at the PFM Act, the Public Finance Management Act, which actually allows counties to establish a fund that can support disaster risk management. Because as we engage in cities and as we talk planning here, we cannot run away from the issues of climate change, which have also caught up with us, as well as disasters that are already facing us on our day-to-day interactions and, existence in the cities. So the goal is in line with our constitution, if you reflect on it, and aspiration that is well captured in the County Government Act. And maybe just to also highlight that when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals critically and reflect on them relating with the Vision 2030, then you'll see a very direct connection. And some people have joked that the goals are actually borrowed from the Kenyan Vision 2030. Because looking at the Vision 2030, we have the three key pillars. That is the economy, the society, and the political pillar. And also, we look at SDGs. They also talk about the same pillars: environment, economy, social, and of course the fourth one, which Prof and Mr. Sengo talked about largely, is the governance, which in other circles is included under political. So, ladies and gentlemen, the rapid urbanization in Kenya, as I talked about it earlier on, if uncontrolled, is likely to lead us into a total mess in the future. And I think it's time for self-recollection and self-thinking on really where did the rain begin to beat us. From the council perspective, of course, we know our mandate as a council, as outlined in Schedule 4 of the Constitution, that of service provision, and also partly controlled development, with the national government being largely responsible for policy and capacity building. That notwithstanding, I must say that in Kenya we are known for developing good policies and regulations, but we have a major challenge in terms of implementation. And therefore, I'll state that there's need. Each of the players in the urban development space has very critical role. And I'll particularly emphasize the need for a stronger civil society, a stronger neighborhood association that will then be able to keep us or keep the counties in check. So I think the Caraway is the way that we need to go. And because the neighborhood association are the immediate people who interact with the environment in that space. And at that level, they are better placed to bring out the issues and also to demand for service, because it's your right. And most cases you find that when we don't stand out and demand for service, it might never come. But if you have a united voice, highlighting from the Nakuru case, and speak out, because the law is very clear. And as was highlighted by the previous speaker, county government's appropriation of funds is very much guarded, as in the counties can only appropriate funds based on the programs or projects that have been planned for, as in the county integrated development plans. So the CIDPs therefore provide an avenue for bringing or capturing all the issues or all the priorities or interests of the county or the citizens. Currently, the CIDP development process is underway, and we are hoping that all the counties will have the CIDPs ready by the end of February this year. And with most counties currently undertaking the public participation process for the CIDPs, and therefore I'll encourage you to look at your local county CIDP and ensure that your interests or your priorities are well captured in the CIDPs. As the Council of Governors, of course, being guided by the tenet of, the service provision to citizens, they've developed a county performance management framework that is anchored on various principles and policies. Of course, within the county performance management framework is the overarching Vision 2030 theme for Kenya. And below it is the 10-year spatial plan that all counties are required to develop, a 10-year spatial plan. Then beneath the 10-year spatial plan is the CIDP, the County Integrated Development Plan, which ideally is supposed to borrow or speak to a 10-year spatial plan for the county. Then, of course, we know counties have departments, which are called the ministries at national level. At the county, there are departments, with most counties having about 10 departments. And each department is required to develop a strategic plan, just a vision of where the department envisions to be in the next 5 years. So beneath the 5-year strategic plan is now, we know the county integrated development plans are implemented in 1-year annual development plan. So the 1-year annual development plans, therefore, carries the budget for the CIDP. And we know the budget process and all those avenues and, opportunities for public participation. And I therefore would like to encourage you that the budgeting process and in the annual development plans, therefore provides opportunity for ensuring that our interests or our priorities are eventually budgeted for. Ladies and gentlemen, I will just, okay, I'm being informed my time is running out. But in closure, I would just like to say that the county governments are keen to put in place measures that will foster investor-friendly environment so as to accelerate development and access to affordable and adequate housing through various strategies, one of which is the PPP, the public-private partnership. And currently, the council is also fostering closer collaboration between the national government and the county governments, especially in areas of sustainable urbanization. in order to deliver Kenya as a regional, continental, global trendsetter in this arena. And already we have a very big delegation of county officials and technical officers who've gone to the World Urban Forum in Malaysia. And it's our hope that from there, they'll come up with new innovations, new approaches, or new ways of addressing the urban challenges that will then be able to, we could be able to try locally. And as was well put earlier on, we also have the Symbiocity program that Prof participated in the design. And it's a pilot project for 9 counties looking at issues of urban development, waste management, urban transport. And it's our hope that from the 9 pilot counties, we'll be able to come up with good practices or models that could be able to be replicated in other counties. The council also has a dedicated urban development committee, urban and lands development committee, with the full mandate of driving the urban issues, the urban agenda. And we interface with various players in the urban sector. And so we are very happy for the work that Kara is doing, and we'll be willing to engage further so that we can be able to realize our ultimate dream of well-planned, sustainable, urban spaces in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Good. That concludes the presentations for today. And so we go into the next session of Q&A, that is questions and answers.